What up, Nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NFL DFS First Look Lineup Build. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on Twitter at Wise_Take or at the home of the WiseTake Nation, WiseTake.com. Been a little bit since we've done a YouTube video. I've been sick, as you could probably tell, still sick for the last week or so. Not a good feeling. It's terrible. Still grinding at the WiseTake Nation, but had to peel back on the free content as I try to get better and feel better. We are already at week 11 for the NFL. Pretty wild. It's going by really, really quick. I always say it, as soon as the NBA came. Once the NBA shows up, then the NFL season really, really like speeds up and seems to just go by so quick. And with the NBA grinding between, sometimes it's hard to keep up with some of the news or some of the research process. You really have to be disciplined if you are playing multiple sports, really any part of the year, but especially for NBA and NFL, because the contests are so much bigger. There's so many more people playing and things like that. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump in real quick. If you're new to this channel in general, we do a lot of NFL and NBA, MLB, all kinds of DFS stuff for free on this channel. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the notifications bell so you're notified when we do put something out. We do a lot of stuff live. Sometimes we'll do some stuff pre-recorded, but make sure you're notified either way. And like the video if you could. The likes go a long way. I had to slack a little bit over the last week and a half or so because I fell to this crazy, terrible sickness that just ruins every single moment of your day. But still had some takedowns in between in NBA. And, we're still grinding over at WiseTake Nation. Nothing's going to stop us there. So the YouTube stuff will be back. But please like the videos. They go a long way. And as long as you guys keep liking the video, it supports us. And we will continue to do them. All right, now into week 11. This better be week 11. That's how out of it I've been, I'm telling you. Lamar Jackson is 7-7, very, very expensive. There's some value we can take a look at on this first look that I have in mind, just from knowing situations, and even a lot of the stuff we're going to go over today in this first look is more of like a if, because it's so early in the week that the injury stuff is just not concrete just yet. So Lamar Jackson is 7-7. That game seems awesome. Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, that should be an awesome game. It's in Baltimore. If you could find a way to reach him, I'm fine with it. But we know in quarterback, the margin of these scores are typically the least. Like you could have a wide receiver put up 5 and another wide receiver put up 40. It's possible for quarterbacks to go 40. Lamar Jackson is one of those quarterbacks that could, especially in a game where he could be pushed. Last week against the Bengals, he wasn't even pushed. And he still managed to get where he had to go. So if you can afford him, sure. Drew Brees is on the road, but he is in a pretty awesome matchup against Tampa, who just is just not good. Their secondary just continues to get beat, and has all season. We like Brees at home, but again, it is a solid matchup. The problem with Brees is he doesn't have any rushing upside, so it feels almost difficult to take him over Lamar Jackson, over Deshaun Watson when he's priced in between. Well, maybe not Lamar Jackson because he's significantly more expensive, but Deshaun Watson, $100 less, is also on the road, but it also has some rushing upsides, rushing floor, rushing ceiling, in addition to the great passing game. So I like Brees, but it's hard not to take Watson over him at that point if you're paying up. Jimmy Garoppolo put up a pretty good score against Arizona last time. Kind of feels fishy to just go back and expect the same. Especially because Arizona hung in this game, and that was kind of surprising, I think, for most. Now, Seattle did upset them, if you want to call it an upset. I mean, was it an upset? I guess it depends on what perspective you're looking at it. The real only reason I even thought upset is because I believe the 49ers were home. So, you expect a good team to win at home. Anyway, But 6-7, we're at that point. Another one kind of like the Breeze situation doesn't really have a ton of rushing upside, and we almost want to take Dak Prescott, who can run and has been very good, against Detroit, who has not, or Josh Allen against Miami, another situation. Admittedly, Miami's defense looked pretty good against Hoyer, but But yeah, Allen hasn't shown us the ceiling, but he's certainly shown us a solid floor. We know he's gonna get you some rushing yards, right? He's rushing over the last 6 to 8 times a game. Against Cleveland, 2 rushing touchdowns. And the game's in Miami, so I shouldn't have to worry about weather. So again, it's just hard, like, envision taking these guys over, the rushing ones are just better for fantasy. It's just it. Jameis Winston against New Orleans. This game could shoot out. If it was in New Orleans, I'd be more likely to believe it would. But I'm okay with Winston. He has shown us he has shown a ceiling. Again, the only concern here is you've got other guys. We talked about Allen and Prescott. He's not that far away. Tom Brady is under him in a really good matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are a strong pass funnel type defense. Matt Ryan is 6,200. Now you're starting to save some money, at least, for going with these non-rushing caliber quarterbacks. Type quarterbacks. My bad. I think going over under this 6,200 range, it's not pretty. There's really only one guy that I have any interest in. And I'm sure like you guys could probably spot him right away. He kind of stands out when you're running through this. But Kyle Allen at 5,300. The kid's been pretty good for the most part, throwing touchdowns. He's only 5'3". He's got a matchup with Atlanta. Atlanta did look good against Breeze coming out of the bye. I will acknowledge that they were very, very surprising went into New Orleans. But Kyle Allen's also had some tougher matchups lately, and I don't know if I'm willing to believe that Atlanta's defense is for real after one game when they've been literally the laughingstock of the league the entire season. So I think Kyle Allen, at least for a first look example, is going to be easier for us to build teams with because, again, it's early in the week. I'm already going to be using value that may not even be there come Sunday for this thing, just to kind of get us through a team. And as much as I want these other guys up here, they're just expensive. So maybe as the week comes on, Thursday, Joey and Matt will be doing the NFL podcast. Maybe by then some other injury stuff will open up, and we can be a little more. The path to grab these guys will be a little bit easier. But for now, no surprise. And I expect Kyle Allen to be very popular in cash. He seems like the cash game quarterback. Not that I come on here and try to do like a cash game build. Yeah, Juan in the chat says Lamar Jackson looked like we're watching a video game. Yes, exactly. Like he's doing Madden stuff. Everything is Madden. Everything is Madden. Let's see. Going over to running backs, Christian McCaffrey. Now again, I'm not, just to be clear, I think Kyle Allen is probably going to be the cash game quarterback. It doesn't mean this team is necessarily a cash game team. I'm just building a team that I think makes sense, and I think based off the information we have this early, is feasible for either format. Christian McCaffrey, 10-5. Christian McCaffrey is just amazing. Last week, he got 7 targets against Green Bay. Granted, they were trailing. You don't necessarily, if this is a leading game script, you're probably not going to get a ton of tournament upside from Kyle Allen. If Atlanta somehow takes the lead on Carolina, which is definitely possible. Carolina's defense has been ass, especially against the run. But, Christian McCaffrey at 10-5 against Atlanta's defense has been pretty good against the run. But again, this is a guy that's just matchup proof, right? Like he almost went for 30-something again because he got stuffed at the goal line to end the game. The upside is massive. If you can fit him in, I think you try to fit him in. Zeke coming off of a rough outing against Minnesota. Dalvin Cook was just better. He was just better. But 9K for Cook against Detroit, especially if Stafford's out and we think Detroit is going to struggle to move the ball at all. We could see Zeke fed just a lot, right? And he's $1,500 cheaper. It does make sense. Dalvin Cook is $8,900. Another one that just seems automatic every week. It's going to be a very slow-paced game here against Denver. Denver's defense has played a lot better. I like the fact that Cook is home this week. You're saving $100 at this point. When it comes, if you're comparing Zeke to Cook, even though Zeke may have the easier path and the game script going into it, Cook has just got the volume. I don't think Zeke has really been as reliable for this type of volume like Cook has. I mean, he's had the same type of games, right? But we've had such like against the Giants. Granted, they dominated that game, but no targets. I don't know. It's like splitting hairs, man. I still think McCaffrey is, maybe McCaffrey and Cook at this point. Like, why bother anything else? Leonard Fournette, coming off of a bye. They're getting Foles back, I believe. Another one that's getting very reliable volume in the pass game and in the run game. If he's not getting it in the pass, it's because he ran the ball 29 times. 7,900 against the Colts. Colts were like 29th going into last week. I got to double check and see if that's changed, but they were 29th in DVOA against the run going into last week. I can dig Fournette. Josh Jacobs, that kind of stands out, right? Mainly because Cincinnati benched Dalton. Their offense looked awful last week, right? They're on the road this time across the country against Oakland, who is good against the run, not very good against the pass, but you got a quarterback who doesn't seem very good at the moment. We could see Josh Jacobs featured a ton again. If the Raiders are winning this game, if they have a winning game script, they're probably just going to keep feeding Jacobs. And Cincinnati's defense is not good. We saw against Lamar Jackson last week. Now Lamar Jackson, what he did to him is something that most quarterbacks ain't gonna be able to do. But I think Jacobs makes sense, especially on FanDuel, because the pass game thing isn't really there for Jacobs. That's the one sacrifice you're making. On FanDuel, that shit don't really matter. So I like him a lot over there. What we got? Not a ton stands out. Like, there's stuff we can talk about. Oh, Devontae Freeman is doubtful. Okay, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So if Devontae Freeman is out, Atlanta's going to be where we're getting a lot of value this week. I can tell you that already. Brian Hill, right? Yeah, look at that. 20 rushing attempts against New Orleans last week. If Freeman's out, which it looks like he is, Brian Hill against Carolina. We saw Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams slice these guys up last week. We know Carolina's been bad against the run this year. One of the worst in the league against the run. I think we're doing it. But I'm going to plug him in the flex. We're doing it. Brian Hill. Now, as far as the main running backs, I think we pick one of McCaffrey, Elliott, Cook that we want to jam in and kind of see what we're left with. I'd like to fit in McCaffrey. I know I don't normally like to take running backs from the same game, but McCaffrey's just a freak. So I'd like to try to fit him in. But if I can't, I guess it's Cook or Zeke, but I just have a hard time picking. I guess Zeke is the situation. But Dalvin Cook is just hard to bet against. Really hard to bet against. See what we can do with McCaffrey. I'll leave the other running back open and see. I mean, ideally, I'd like to at least, at the very minimum, if I can get Josh Jacobs as a minimum. Not that I'm dying, to play him. I'd like to get up even higher, but yeah. All right, let's go to receivers. So we got a lot of spenders. Michael Thomas is 9,900. That's wild. Very, very tough to play Thomas and McCaffrey together. I could say that. But yeah, this is really expensive. Good matchup. Tampa Bay's been bad against the pass, that we know. And also, I think Hargraves was just waived because he didn't hustle on a play. He's been terrible anyway. But I would imagine if that guy was winning the job, the guy behind him can't be that much better, I would think. Then again, I think he was like a high draft pick, so maybe somebody just didn't want to look bad. I don't know. But awesome matchup. Sure. This is expensive. Hopkins against Baltimore, another pretty good spot. Will Fuller is questionable. We'll see if he returns, but double-digit targets for Hopkins over his last 4 weeks. Baltimore is not a defense I'm intimidated by. Amari Cooper against Detroit. Coming off of a really good game. Just 3 good games in a row, really, for Cooper. Just a really good receiver. I'm fine with him at 7-7. Edelman seems like a really good spot for Edelman here. Talk about double-digit targets. Edelman's like the king of it against Philly. I like this right here against the pass funnel. I mean, he's expensive. He's never, I don't think he's ever been this expensive, but the matchup certainly matches up. Julio Jones had 9 targets against New Orleans, just was inefficient. But yeah, 7,500 for Julio, way too cheap. We already have a guy from Atlanta, and I'm gonna get this out of the way and tell you that there is already one value play from Atlanta I think we can look at. Because remember, Mohamed Sanu is traded. And with that, we saw an increase in targets to Julio. Well, not necessarily for one game. Let's not overreact. We know Ridley was playing more snaps. And it's opening things up a little bit for this guy, Russell Gage, who had 7 targets in week 8. 9 targets in week 8, 7 catches. Then they had a bye. And then against New Orleans, in a game where their team was winning and they just didn't have to really, throw a ton. He had 5 targets, 3,300. I can tell you right now that Gage, Brian Hill, and Kyle Allen, I'm not even going to include McCaffrey just yet, but Kyle Allen, Brian Hill, and Gage will be very, very popular in cash games. Gage and Hill probably more so, because some people will try to use those guys to fit in it, but yeah, that's not nothing unique. That'll be, just keep in mind of that going in. Anyway, I think Evans and Godwin, always a situation, always a debate. It's been Evans a lot lately. We like to attack New Orleans in the slot. Kind of like Godwin this week, but I have the last 2 weeks, and Evans is just... I caught Evans the 1 week, right? Remember, guys? We caught Evans against Tennessee, and then I skipped him against Seattle because I just like Payne. Looks like he didn't do that well against Arizona. Okay. Did Godwin? I don't think so. I was so sick. He got a lot of targets, but the running back got all the touchdowns on Sunday. That's right. Just kind of John Brown 6,400 against Miami, especially if you are playing Kyle, or even if you're not. 11 targets against Cleveland. We know Brown is the deep threat guy. A lot of deep plays. Allen has a strong arm. That's always a nice connection. We do have Kyle Allen in this lineup, so we should probably look at some of his weapons. So we've got McCaffrey. This is setting up for a triple stack. We'll see if we can afford him. If we might have to come down, but DJ Moore, double-digit targets. I think it's him. At least in like more optimal approach, maybe it'd be him. Maybe to be a little contrarian, you hope that this time it's Samuel, because it definitely could be Samuel. He's getting good targets as well. The scores haven't been as consistently high as DJ Moore. DJ Moore, just been great. But DJ Moore would be the optimal choice, I think. However, we're going to go with Samuel for like a little contrarian-ish pivot, because we have what's going to be a lot of chalk in this lineup. Let's see. Any more value, guys? You know what? This is pretty cheap for... this is pretty cheap for Mohamed Sanu 5-1. Considering his role, right? Like, he's been in a bigger role going over to New England. 14 targets against Baltimore. Could have been an outlier, but... Christian Kirk had a monster game last week. He's 5-7 now. Monster game. How did Ted Ginn only got 3 targets with Breeze, huh? Not digging it. So, for this last receiver spot, there's so many studs up there. You'd like to squeeze in at least one of these guys. That might be what forces us off McCaffrey. Let's go to tight end. George Kittle in an up matchup. George Kittle was inactive Monday, so he's questionable. Last week, O.J. Howard just rose like the Undertaker. Of course, against Arizona. What do you do? We've got an injury. So we start looking at the backup. Ross Dwelly. 4 targets against Arizona last time. 29 yards, not bad for a guy that doesn't play a ton. Against Seattle on Monday Night Football, 7 targets. Really good matchup. Only caught 3, but really good matchup. At home. Yeah. Right there. You see Kittle, questionable. But if Kittle's in, it's a great match for him. And Dwelly would probably still be like an interesting tournament pivot in case Kittle re-injures or something. You could say the same thing with Hooper, who could be out. Hooper has gotten a lot of work, but that just makes Gage and Brian Hill and Julio and Ridley and all these guys a little better, first of all, right? Because quarterbacks typically like to throw to targets they're familiar with. You don't necessarily know that Stalker is going to slide into that kind of role, right? Or Jaden Graham, right? I don't think so. But Kittle, we already saw that they were using that other dude. Andrews is 6,100. Damn. I don't like the matchup. I respect the target volume. I don't like the matchup. Darren Waller at 5.5. The targets have come down a bit over the last 2 weeks, but against Cincinnati, another phenomenal matchup. Maybe people forgot. Zach Ertz is 5K. Finally had a big game against Chicago. Now he has a matchup with New England. I don't mind that at all. We got Jared Cook, 10 targets against Atlanta. Welcome back, Drew Brees, huh? I don't know if I can trust that, though. Because Brees, I don't know. He hasn't gotten a ton of targets all year. I don't know if I can trust that. Greg Olsen, we already have a lot of exposure, but against, 10 targets against Green Bay, not bad at all. We've already got a lot of this game, though. I don't want to get, too crazy. I don't see a lot. Tyler Eifert had 9 targets against the Rams. Dalton was benched and went back down to 4 in a game that they were trailing and had to throw. None there. Ryan Griffin. I think Herndon got hurt. Yeah, he was diagnosed with a fractured rib. That was quick. That was real quick. Dwelly it is. Now, if we were going to grab one of those expensive receivers, which one? Say I got Godwin. 3,200 is not terrible. Ooh, 100 away from the the Raiders and get the correlation. Oh, with Samuel. Let's see. Could we reach D-Hop? Yeah. I mean, this is just a, example, but D-Hop. I mean, honestly, I think Godwin right now, I like because I think he's going to be lower owned of these guys. And I still like the idea of attacking the Saints with a slot. I like that. I don't really like where I'm left with on defense. Just the zone I'm in, I'm not crazy about this one. Because I feel like if I'm going to play any of these defenses, I might as well punt. But we'll just do this for now. So, just a little hybrid lineup trying to get different. We have some optimal plays, and then we're trying to get different in other ways. Interesting slate. We'll see what happens. That Atlanta-Carolina game, I had a lot of attention. Value plays from Atlanta certainly in play, and even Allen and his receivers seem too cheap. So maybe McCaffrey, was a jammin'. McCaffrey was clearly a jammin', but maybe you have some room, you don't go there. But maybe that's people's mistake is not playing enough of him. And it's been my mistake multiple times this year, and I'm not doing it again this week. So, Anyway, guys, again, like the video. Really appreciate you. NBA videos will be back as well. Said it, take some time because I've been a little under the weather. But go check us out at WiseTake.com for more fire DFS content. We are a DFS community and premium content provider. We have week passes for NBA. We have day passes. We have all different kind of things if you want to go try us out. But go try us out. WiseTake.com. Join the nation. Hashtag who do you? Takedowns all the time. I haven't been posting them on Twitter as much because I've been sick, but nation's been hot. Nation's been hot. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yes.